Imagine a late-night drive-through line at a suburban Starbucks on a Friday evening. At the front sits a pristine, brand-new BMW X5, its paint gleaming under the bright menu lights. Right next to it is a dented, 15-year-old Honda Civic with a faded bumper. Have you already made up your mind about which driver is winning at life? Most people would pick the luxury SUV. But modern wealth data tells a completely different story. Statistically, the driver of that old, paid-off Civic is much more likely to have a net worth over $1 million. Meanwhile, the person in the new SUV is likely living paycheck to paycheck, trapped in a heavy 72-month loan. This is the core of being boring with money. It is a quiet financial strategy that stays completely invisible online because it does not get quick clicks, it looks terrible on Instagram, and no one makes viral unboxing videos about a high-yield savings account. In this video, we are going to look at the true cost of keeping up appearances using real American data, behavioral psychology, and a simple 6-step system. Make sure to stay until the end, because there is one specific mental trap about lifestyle upgrades that most people never connect, and it will permanently alter how you view every dollar you spend. This is not about shaming you or forcing you to live on nothing. It is simply about making a hidden trade-off visible so you can make real choices. If you appreciate honest observations about wealth without the usual internet hype, take a second to subscribe to the channel. Let's look at how the game is played. Before we can look at the solution, we need to understand just how big this problem really is. It is easy to look at people who spend heavily and assume it is just a small group of people making bad choices. But recent data from the Federal Reserve shows that living paycheck to paycheck has become the normal way of life in America. Nearly 60% of adults in the United States say they stretch every single dollar just to make it to the next month. At first glance, you might think this is simply because people do not earn enough money. We tell ourselves that if we just got that next raise or hit a higher tax bracket, our money worries would vanish. But the data disproves this myth rather quickly. When you look closely at high earners, people making over $100,000 a year, nearly half of them are still living paycheck to paycheck. They carry massive credit card balances and have zero cash saved up. It turns out that earning more money does not fix a leaky bucket if the hole in the bottom keeps growing at the exact same speed. So, where is all this money actually going? It is not being spent on small luxuries like daily coffee or streaming subscriptions, even though those get all the blame online. The real culprits are the big, fixed costs. Over the past few years, housing costs have eaten up a massive chunk of the average paycheck. Even worse is what we spend on transportation. The average monthly payment for a new car in America has now crossed $700. When you add in higher insurance, taxes, and maintenance, a single shiny object in the driveway quietly drains thousands of dollars from a household every few months. This brings us to the most alarming fact of all, and it is a number that is hard to forget once you see it. Even among families who earn very good salaries, over 40% say they could not cover a sudden $1,000 emergency expense using cash from a savings account. A broken refrigerator, a trip to the emergency room, or a set of new tires would force them straight into credit card debt. They look completely stable from the outside, but their financial lives are balanced on a razor's edge. To understand why so many of us fall into this trap, we have to look at how the human brain is built. It is not a character flaw, and it is not because you lack willpower. It is simply a matter of biology. For thousands of years, our ancestors lived in small groups where your social standing determined whether you survived or not. Having more resources meant better safety, more food, and a higher chance of keeping your family alive. Because of this, our brains naturally learned to track and show off our social position to the people around us. It was a deeply biological response, and back then, it was a matter of life or death. The problem is that this ancient survival software never got an update, but our world changed completely. Today, we use credit cards and social media to run a program that was meant for the wilderness. In the past, you only compared yourself to a few neighbors down the street. Now, we carry a 24-hour digital showroom right in our pockets. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and even LinkedIn constantly flood our screens with the absolute best, most polished moments of other people's lives. We find ourselves competing globally with people we do not even know, chasing lifestyles that are often built on deep debt and clever filters. Every time we buy something flashy or post a picture of an expensive trip, our brain gives us a real chemical reward, thinking we just secured our place in the tribe. But this visual success comes at a very high price. An American psychologist named Dr. Tim Kaiser spent decades researching how consumer culture affects our minds. His peer-reviewed studies show a very clear pattern. When people focus their lives on material goals and chasing social status, their levels of anxiety and depression go up consistently. Showing the world that you look prosperous does not actually give you the emotional peace it promises. In fact, it usually does the exact opposite, leaving people feeling more empty and stressed than before. We are using a tool that was meant to protect us, but in the modern world, it is quietly tearing our peace of mind apart. There is a specific economic trap that makes this cycle feel so impossible to break, and it helps to understand how it plays tricks on our feelings. Economists and psychologists call this phenomenon hedonic adaptation. It was first documented thoroughly in the 1970s by researchers Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell. In simple terms, it means that human beings adapt to new comforts very quickly. Whether something good or bad happens to us, our minds eventually reset, and we return to our usual baseline of happiness. To see this trap in action, think about the emotional life cycle of buying a luxury car. On the day you drive it off the lot, the excitement is incredibly high. You feel a genuine rush of joy from the new car smell, the smooth ride, and the glances from people at traffic lights. This pleasant high might last for a few weeks, or if you are lucky, maybe 2 months. But eventually, the excitement fades. The luxury car simply becomes your normal, everyday car. The joy evaporates, and your mood goes right back to exactly where it was before you signed the paperwork. This creates a very cruel contrast that ruins most financial plans. The emotional high from that shiny new object disappears in a matter of weeks, but the financial contract you signed does not care about your feelings. While your happiness is right back at baseline, you are still legally obligated to make massive monthly payments for the next 60 to 72 months. Your cash flow is tied up for years to pay for a feeling that only lasted for days. Soon enough, your brain craves that old excitement again, so you start looking for the next upgrade, running faster and faster on a financial treadmill that never actually takes you anywhere. Let us look at the actual math behind this treadmill, because numbers have a way of clearing up the confusion. We can focus on the ultimate American status symbol, the $50,000 financed vehicle. Imagine choosing that flashy car instead of driving a reliable, boring used car that is already paid off. Most people only look at the monthly payment on the sticker, but a new car comes with an entire ecosystem of hidden costs that car ads never mention all at once. The moment you drive that new car off the lot, it immediately loses about 20% of its value. You are losing thousands of dollars in depreciation before you even get it home. On top of that, a financed luxury car requires expensive comprehensive insurance every month. It often demands premium fuel at the pump, and you have to pay high dealership prices for maintenance just to keep the warranty valid. When you add all these pieces together, the true cost of driving that shiny vehicle is easily $800 more per month than driving a boring, paid-off car. Now, imagine taking that $800 difference and doing something incredibly boring with it. Instead of handing it to a bank, you quietly invest it in a standard index fund that tracks the American stock market. If we use a conservative 7% annual return after adjusting for inflation, the math over time becomes staggering. In 10 years, that steady monthly habit grows into $135,000. In 20 years, the compound interest starts to do the heavy lifting, and your balance crosses $412,000. If you keep going for 30 years, that simple decision turns into over $970,000. And remember, that is just for one single car choice. When you multiply this exact same habit across your entire lifestyle, from housing to clothing, the gap grows much wider. Choosing a flashy lifestyle over a boring financial strategy does not just cost you a few $100s a month. Over a working career, it literally costs you between $1.5 and $2 million. Every dollar we spend to look rich is a dollar that cannot go to work to actually make us rich. That is the second price of status, and it is a price that never shows up on a window sticker. The math on a single purchase is bad enough, but the real trouble is that these spending choices never happen in a vacuum. There are hidden forces that cause one expensive decision to trigger an avalanche of more spending. Economists even have a name for things that we buy just to show off. They call them Veblen goods. For normal things, when the price goes up, people buy less of them. But for a Veblen good, it actually becomes more desirable as it gets more expensive. The high price tag is the whole point because it signals to the world that you have the money to throw away. Once you buy into that world, a psychological trap called the Diderot effect snaps shut around you. This concept comes from a French thinker who got a beautiful new red robe as a gift. Suddenly, his old desk, his old chairs, and his old rugs looked cheap and out of place next to his fancy robe. He felt forced to buy all new furniture to match his new standard, and it nearly ruined him financially. In modern America, we see this exact same cascade play out all the time. It usually happens when you change your social circle or move into a slightly wealthier suburban neighborhood. No one gives you a list of rules, but the unwritten pressure is thick in the air. You look out the window and notice your neighbor has a professional lawn care service, so suddenly your own grass looks messy. You attend a neighborhood kid's birthday party that features rented bounce houses and professional catering, and you realize your simple backyard cake and games will no longer cut it. Before you know it, your wardrobe needs an upgrade to match your coworkers, your vacations have to match the places your friends post about on social media, and your old furniture looks wrong inside your new house. One upgrade silently demands 5 more upgrades behind it. The people who build real wealth recognize this chain reaction before it even starts. They avoid the first purchase because they know the most expensive part of a luxury item is not the price on the tag, it is everything it forces you to buy afterward to keep up appearances. To see how these choices play out in real life, let us look at two people named Alex and Sarah. They are both 30 years old, they work at the exact same company, and they each earn a very comfortable salary of $90,000 a year. From the outside, their starting lines are identical. Alex decides to play the modern status game. He takes out a loan for a brand new luxury SUV because he wants to look successful to his co-workers. He rents a stylish apartment in the trendiest part of town, dresses in popular brands, and dines out at expensive restaurants every weekend because that is what everyone in his social circle does. Alex is not a bad guy, and he enjoys his life, but at the end of every month, he only has about $100 left over. Sarah chooses a much more boring path. She keeps driving the old, paid-off sedan she had in college. It has a few scratches, but it runs perfectly fine. She rents a simple, modest apartment a little further away from downtown. Because her fixed costs are so low, she takes the difference, about $1,500 a month, and sets it up to automatically transfer into a basic investment account the exact day her paycheck hits. She does not post about her money, and she does not talk about it at office parties. Now, let us jump 10 years into the future. Both Alex and Sarah received the exact same steady raises over the decade, and both are still good at their jobs. But their financial realities have completely split apart. Alex is now 40, and he is deeply stressed. His expenses grew right along with his raises. He still drives a flashy car, but his bank account is nearly empty, and a sudden layoff would be an absolute catastrophe for him. Sarah, on the other hand, still looks modest from the outside. But thanks to 10 years of compound interest, her boring investment account has quietly grown to over $250,000. She has a massive emergency cushion, she owes nothing to anyone, and she has the financial freedom to make whatever career choices she wants. This story shows us the vital difference between two concepts that people always confuse: income and wealth. Think of income like a water faucet, and wealth like the bucket underneath it. Income is simply the amount of water flowing out of the tap. Wealth is how much water actually stays in the bucket. You can have a massive, roaring faucet like Alex, but if your bucket has a giant hole in the bottom, you will still end up with absolutely nothing at the end of the day. Real wealth is built by fixing the bucket, not just opening the tap. Now that we understand the game, let us look at the practical system to win it. This is a step-by-step blueprint made of 6 quiet movements that shift you from a mindset of showing off to a reality of building wealth. Movement number 1 is the lifestyle freeze. The rule here is simple: when your income goes up, your lifestyle stays exactly where it is. If you get a raise or a bonus, you do not upgrade your car or move into a bigger place. You are already used to living on your old salary, so you simply take the entire amount of that new raise and push it straight into your savings. Movement number 2 is called out of sight, out of mind. Relying on willpower to save money is a losing battle because our brains naturally crave immediate rewards. The trick is to remove the choice entirely. You set up your bank account to automatically transfer a specific amount of money into your investments on the exact day your paycheck arrives. By doing this, you never see that money as spendable cash, and you naturally learn to live on whatever is left over. Movement number 3 is the cost per use filter. Before you buy anything major, you take the price tag and divide it by how many times you will actually use it. A cheap item you buy on impulse but only wear once is incredibly expensive per use. A higher quality item that lasts for years ends up costing pennies per use. This simple mental shift helps you see through flashy marketing and spot real value. Movement number 4 is the 72-hour impulse buffer. When you see a shiny new product online or in a store, your brain gets a quick hit of excitement that makes the item feel absolutely essential. Whenever you feel that urge, force yourself to wait exactly 3 days before buying it. Most of the time, that short-term chemical excitement will completely dissolve on its own, and you will realize you never really needed the item in the first place. Movement number 5 is defining your enough number. If you do not decide ahead of time how much money and material comfort is enough to make you happy, society will happily choose for you. Take some time to write down your personal baseline for a comfortable, peaceful life. Once you hit that number, stop upgrading. Let the rest of your growing income pour straight into your net worth. Finally, movement number 6 is aggressive feed curation. We cannot completely avoid human nature, and if we constantly look at people displaying extreme luxury, we will eventually want to copy them. Take control of your digital environment. Unfollow accounts that exist purely to sell a flashy lifestyle, and mute the things that make you feel inadequate. If you find this practical system helpful and want to support the channel so we can keep making these deep dives, consider becoming a channel member today. Now, I need to be completely honest with you about something before we finish. All of these movements, checklists, and habits will eventually fail if you do not understand the deeper game that is being played. Following a financial rule without knowing why it works is just like copying a math answer without understanding the actual problem. True financial peace requires you to look beneath the surface and learn how money moves on a structural level. You have to truly see how compound interest builds up those who save while quietly crushing those who owe. You need to understand how inflation eats away at cash that is left sitting idle, and how to spot the difference between a real asset and a liability that is simply disguised as a trophy. Without this foundation, you will try these boring tactics for a few weeks, find them inconvenient when life gets busy, and slide right back into your old habits. This channel exists to build the deep understanding from the ground up, so that the choices you make actually stick for good. With all of this in mind, let us return to that late-night drive-through line where we started. When you look at the shiny new luxury SUV and the old, dented Honda Civic now, you should see them with completely fresh eyes. It is not that the old car is magically better than the new one. It is simply that you now understand that what you see on the outside tells you absolutely nothing about what someone is building on the inside. The appearance of wealth and real wealth almost always walk in totally opposite directions. This is because every single dollar that is handed over to buy an impressive image is a dollar that can never be used to build actual security. Real wealth was never meant to be seen by strangers, it was meant to be felt by you. It is not found in a brand name or a vehicle lease. Real wealth is the silent, absolute freedom to control your own time every day. It is the power to say no to a toxic job or a bad situation without worrying about how you will pay your bills next month. It is the ability to lay your head down and sleep soundly through the night because you are completely safe. That dented car might belong to the freest person in the entire line. That kind of freedom does not show up in social media feeds, it does not get likes, and it does not impress the neighbors, but once you finally taste it, you realize it is the only thing truly worth chasing. True luxury has no logo.